In the winter of 1258, the world stood on the edge of a transformation no one could have imagined. A dark storm was approaching the heart of the Islamic world, Baghdad, the jewel of knowledge, culture, and power. As the golden glimmer of its libraries lit the night sky, a distant rumble echoed across the plains. It wasn't thunder. It was the arrival of a force unlike anything the world had seen before. The Mongols, swift, ruthless, unstoppable, were marching toward the greatest empire of its age. Little did humanity know, this moment would shatter centuries of stability, erase civilizations, and give birth to an entirely new chapter of world history. This was the moment the Mongols changed history forever. Before the Mongols rose from the endless grasslands of Central Asia, the world was divided into powerful civilizations that believed their dominance would last forever. The Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad was still respected as the spiritual and intellectual center of the Muslim world. In China, the Song dynasty thrived with advanced science and booming trade. Europe was slowly rising from the shadows of the Dark Ages, its kingdoms rebuilding and expanding. Along the Silk Road, merchants carried silk, spices, and stories from one continent to another. But beneath this seemingly peaceful surface, corruption, political rivalries, and weakening armies had already begun to rot these empires from the inside. No one realized it at the time, but the world was perfectly positioned for a force powerful enough, and brutal enough, to reshape everything. And that force was about to emerge from the steppes. Temujin, the boy who would become Genghis Khan, was born into a world of raw survival on the harsh Mongolian steppes. His childhood was anything but ordinary. His father was poisoned by rivals when he was still young, leaving his family abandoned, starving, and hunted by enemy tribes. Temujin grew up knowing betrayal, hunger, and loss, but instead of breaking him, these hardships forged him into a relentless survivor. He learned to read people, inspire loyalty, and strike fear into those who opposed him. From a young age, he believed he was destined for something greater than tribal life. Through sheer determination, courage, and a terrifying ability to command others, Temujin began uniting scattered Mongol clans, something no leader before him had ever accomplished. Every victory added to his legend, and every betrayal hardened his resolve. By the time he rose as Genghis Khan, the Great Khan, a force unlike anything the world had ever seen was ready to storm across continents. Once Temujin became Genghis Khan, the steppe transformed from a land of wandering clans into the headquarters of the most terrifying war machine in history. The Mongol army was unlike any other force on earth, fast, disciplined, and impossibly coordinated. Every soldier was a master horseman from childhood, able to ride for days without rest, surviving on dried meat and even drinking horse blood when necessary. They moved like shadows across the land, striking with blinding speed and disappearing before enemies could react. Genghis introduced strict military ranks, iron discipline, and a communication system using mounted messengers that allowed orders to travel hundreds of miles in hours. But their true power came from strategy, decoys, psychological warfare, and calculated brutality. Entire cities surrendered without a fight simply after hearing the Mongols were coming. Under Genghis Khan's leadership, this army became an unstoppable wave, ready to sweep across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, changing the destiny of nations forever. The moment the Mongols surrounded Zhongdu, the great capital of the Jin dynasty, history shifted. This wasn't just a siege, it was a warning to the world of what was coming. Zhongdu was one of the richest and most heavily fortified cities in Asia, protected by massive stone walls, elite warriors, and huge reserves of food and weapons. The Jin believed no army on earth could breach their capital. But they had never faced the Mongols. Genghis Khan's forces cut off every exit, blocking supplies and isolating the city completely. Day after day, Mongol siege engineers hurled fiery projectiles over the walls while archers unleashed arrows with terrifying precision. As food ran out, desperation grew inside the city. But the Mongols did not break. After months of pressure, Zhongdu finally collapsed, its defenses shattered, its people overwhelmed. With this victory, the Mongols proved they could destroy even the mightiest empires. This fall sent a shockwave across Asia. a new power had risen, unstoppable and ruthless, and no kingdom was truly safe anymore. After the fall of Zhongdu, the Mongols perfected a style of warfare the world had never seen before. This was the turning point that transformed them from nomadic warriors into a continent-shattering force. Genghis Khan realized that brute strength alone could not conquer empires. Technology, intelligence, and psychological warfare were equally powerful weapons. So he introduced a new system. Every army unit had scouts, engineers, signalers, and specialized horsemen working together with perfect coordination. They moved faster than any army in history, covering impossible distances in a single day. They struck suddenly, disappeared into the steppe, and returned with devastating force. Their communication system, relay riders switching horses every few miles, was so fast it functioned like an ancient internet, but the most shocking innovation was fear. The Mongols used it deliberately. When a city resisted, they destroyed it so completely that rumors spread like wildfire. Armies surrendered at the mere sight of Mongol banners. This new kind of warfare reshaped the medieval world, proving that the Mongols weren't simply raiders, they were strategic masterminds rewriting the rules of conquest itself. With their new system of lightning-fast warfare and psychological dominance, the Mongols exploded outward in every direction, beginning the greatest land expansion ever recorded. No empire in history, neither Rome, nor Persia, nor even the later British Empire, matched the Mongols in how quickly they conquered. From the scorching deserts of Central Asia to the icy forests of Russia, from the wealthy Silk Road cities to the mountains of Persia, their cavalry swept across continents like a living storm. City after city fell with shocking speed. Entire kingdoms collapsed within months. The Mongols didn't just defeat armies, they absorbed their knowledge, their engineers, their craftsmen, and their technologies. Every victory made them stronger, smarter, and even more unstoppable. At their peak, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, controlling nearly every major trade route on the continent. What made their expansion truly extraordinary was not only its size, but its unity. A single leader's vision, Genghis Khan's dream of a world under one sky, was now becoming real. Borders dissolved, cultures mixed, trade flourished, and a new world order began to take shape. The Mongols weren't just changing maps, they were changing history itself. By the mid-13th century, the Mongols had set their sights on the richest prize in the Middle East, Baghdad, the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate. Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis, led a massive army estimated at over 150,000 soldiers, carrying siege engines, engineers, and cavalry trained for relentless warfare. The Mongols did not merely intend to defeat the Abbasids, they sought total annihilation. Baghdad, a city of nearly 1 million people, had grown wealthy and complacent over centuries, believing its walls and scholars could protect it. But the Mongols were not ordinary invaders. Hulagu's forces surrounded the city, cut off supplies, and relentlessly bombarded the walls with massive trebuchets. Flames and smoke soon filled the sky, and the Tigris River ran black with ink from destroyed manuscripts. Panic and chaos gripped the streets as citizens realized the legendary city of knowledge was on the brink of collapse. In just 13 days, the Mongols breached the gates, killing tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians, and destroying libraries, hospitals, palaces, and mosques. The Abbasid Caliph al-Mustasim was captured and executed, marking the end of a dynasty that had ruled for over 500 years. Baghdad, once the shining jewel of civilization, had fallen, and with it, an entire era of intellectual and cultural brilliance. The fall of Baghdad in 1258 did more than destroy a city, it shattered the entire Abbasid Golden Age and sent shockwaves throughout the medieval world. The Mongol conquest left vast regions depopulated, trade disrupted, and knowledge lost. Yet, paradoxically, it also set the stage for a new era. Surviving scholars fled to other cities like Cairo, Damascus, and later cities in Europe, carrying fragments of the knowledge that had once flourished in Baghdad. These manuscripts and ideas helped ignite the Renaissance and influenced science, medicine, and philosophy for centuries. Meanwhile, new powers arose from the vacuum left by the Abbasids. The Mamluks in Egypt halted further Mongol expansion at the Battle of Ain Jalut in 1260, demonstrating that even the seemingly unstoppable Mongols could be challenged. In Anatolia and the surrounding regions, emerging states would later give rise to the Ottomans, while in Persia and Central Asia, Mongol rule eventually blended with local cultures, giving birth to hybrid civilizations. The destruction of one world inadvertently allowed for the birth of many others, proving that even the most catastrophic events can reshape history, preserve knowledge in new forms, and redefine global power structures. Humanity learned that empires fall, but ideas endure. The Mongol conquests didn't just change the Middle East, they transformed the entire world. By connecting vast territories across Asia and Europe, the Mongols created a proto-global network of trade routes that facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies like never before. The Silk Road flourished under their protection, allowing merchants to transport silk, spices, paper, and gunpowder from China to Europe. Scientific knowledge, medical texts, and astronomical observations traveled along these routes, influencing societies far from the original centers of learning. Politically, the Mongols reshaped borders and power structures, kingdoms fell, new empires rose, and previously isolated regions were forced into interaction and competition. In Europe, the arrival of Baghdad's surviving scholars' works helped fuel the intellectual awakening that would become the Renaissance. In the Middle East, powers like the Mamluks and later the Ottomans learned from both the Mongol military tactics and the administrative lessons of managing vast, multicultural territories. Even the devastation itself left a lasting mark. Cities were rebuilt with stronger defenses, and rulers became acutely aware of the importance of unity and preparedness. In essence, the Mongols were not merely destroyers, they were accelerators of change, leaving behind a legacy that shaped trade, science, politics, and culture for centuries to come. The story of the Mongols is a testament to the power of ambition, strategy, and sheer determination. In a few decades, a force born from the steppes of Mongolia swept across continents, toppling empires, redrawing borders, and reshaping civilizations. The fall of Baghdad in 1258 marked one of the most dramatic turning points in history, a single moment when centuries of knowledge, culture, and political power were nearly erased in days. Yet, even amidst destruction, seeds of a new world were planted. Surviving scholars carried wisdom across borders, trade flourished under Mongol protection, and new empires learned from both the Mongols' brilliance and their brutality. The Mongols did not simply conquer, they changed the trajectory of humanity, forcing the rise of new powers, the exchange of knowledge, and the creation of networks that connected distant regions for the first time. That winter of 1258 was more than a siege, it was a pivot point, a reminder that history is fragile, yet resilient, and that even in devastation, transformation and renewal are inevitable. The Mongols didn't just alter a map, they changed the world forever, leaving a legacy that echoes across centuries.